Ever get that feeling?
Hmm.
Like you're praying, but it's almost like your words are just vanishing into thin air.
Yeah, I think we all have those moments, right? When you wonder if anyone's really listening.
That's exactly what got me thinking about today's deep dive.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be looking at Matthew chapter 7, verse 7, using the Ask, Seek, Find devotional as our guide.
It's a really powerful verse about the whole idea of prayer.
Yeah. And what struck me reading through this devotional entry is the boldness it encourages. The directness of just asking God for what you need.
It is interesting, isn't it? Because in the Christian tradition, there's such a strong emphasis on both asking and seeking.
Right. It's not just about throwing out a casual
No,
request.
it's about a much deeper level of engagement, like really pursuing a relationship with God.
Okay, so why don't we actually jump into the March 11th entry from Ask, Seek, Find.
Sounds good.
So it starts with the verse itself. Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and it will be open to you.
Love that verse.
And then the reflection kind of expands on this. God invites us to ask him for what we need.
Yeah, that idea of invitation is really powerful.
Totally. And then it gives this really simple prayer. Lord, I come to you in faith, believing you will answer. Amen.
And I don't know about you, but I was kind of struck by how simple and direct that prayer is.
Me too. It's so easy to overthink prayer sometimes, get caught up in the wording and make it
Yeah.
this big, elaborate thing.
Exactly. Like, do we always have to use these super formal or poetic words?
Right. Maybe sometimes the most powerful prayers are the simplest ones.
I think so. Just being honest and straightforward. I mean, have you ever felt that way? Like you're overcomplicating things in your own prayer?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But what I find fascinating about Matthew 7.7 is this progression it highlights,
Yeah.
going from asking to seeking.
Hmm.
Because it's not just about, like, presenting a wish list to God, right?
Well,
There's this implication of actively pursuing a deeper understanding of God's will,
hmm.
trying to align our desires with his purpose.
Hmm.
That's a great point. So if we're talking about this idea of seeking, what does that actually look like in practice?
That's a great question.
Is it like just reading the Bible more? Or,
Well, that's definitely a part of it, but I think it's so much broader than that.
okay.
Like, think about the early church, for example. They didn't even have a complete Bible at that point,
Right.
but they were constantly seeking understanding through, having these shared meals, engaging in these really intense discussions, and by actively living out their faith, even in a world that wasn't always so accepting.
Wow, yeah. So it really is this whole life endeavor.
Exactly.
And then that kind of leads us to that final word, finding. What happens when we don't find what we were initially searching for? Or when the answer isn't what we expected?
I think that's where things get really interesting. And the Ask, Seek, Find devotional actually doesn't shy away from that question.
It doesn't.
No, it actually reminds us that what we find isn't always what we initially expected, right?
Wow.
Sometimes it's something even better. Or, maybe it's a challenge that pushes us to grow in ways we hadn't anticipated. Like, if you think about the Israelites wandering in the desert for 40 years,
Oh, good example.
their journey to the promised land was full of detours and these unexpected lessons, right?
Right. So even in the finding, there's this element of surprise and a need to be flexible.
Totally.
And it makes me think of all the times I've prayed for something super specific.
Mm.
And looking back, the answer was pretty clear no.
Uh-huh.
And I'll be honest, it was tough at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But now I can totally see how those closed doors led me to something so much more fulfilling.
I think that's such a powerful testament to trusting in a plan that's bigger than our own, you know?
It is.
It takes a lot of faith to believe that even in the not yets and the no ways, God is working everything out for our good.
Absolutely. So much wisdom in that. So I guess the question for all of us is, if we can step back for a minute and really consider this concept of seeking in our own lives,
Mhm.
what are we truly searching for? What do we yearn to find?
That's the deeper question this verse prompts us to ask, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, if you could approach God with this absolute confidence, knowing that he was truly listening, what would you ask for?
Oh, wow.
And what would that reveal about, your deepest desires and needs?
That's a question worth pondering. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Matthew 7.7.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
We hope it's given you some new insights and maybe even encouraged you to keep asking, seeking, and embracing those unexpected discoveries along the way.
Absolutely.
Until next time.